Today we have Beth Greer joining us here in San Francisco. It's very exciting. Give a little bit of intro about Beth. I met Beth through a mutual friend, and her book, which is called Supernatural Home, is what we're going to be talking about today. And I couldn't put it down. It was actually quite riveting how many things that I had in my own house or that I put on myself or would eat that actually were not that healthy in most circumstances to even have for that in your home. So I am really excited to bring Beth here today. And she's going to talk about her book, like I mentioned, and help us understand what we bring into our work environment, our bodies, and our home that matter and to be healthy. So we'll hear her ultra-practical advice on what you can do today to limit exposure to chemicals, toxins, what I like to call icky things, and in general, the things that just aren't safe for your health, home, or person. So without further ado, please welcome Beth.
Thank you, Rachel. So every one of you in this room already knows a lot about going green. I mean, look at the company you're working for, Google. How incredible. They have an amazing recycling program, and they have solar panels, and they feed you amazing food, organic food sourced from local farms. It's fantastic. How many of you are eating organic at home? Okay, good. And how many of you are driving energy efficient or fuel efficient cars, or biking to work, or maybe taking the rail or ferry? Yay, well, that's fantastic. So I think that there's a missing shade of green, though, because energy efficiency is great, reducing your carbon footprint is amazing, but there's this missing shade, and I think that it's avoiding the chemical toxins that we're all exposed to in our food and in our everyday products that might be actually making us sick. So I wanted to read something to you. I think you might have seen it here. And I would love to get some input and get your opinion about what you think of this. For the first time in the history of the world, every human being is now subjected to chemicals, to contact with dangerous chemicals from the moment of conception until death. So when do you think that was written?
Rachel Carson.
Yes, so would you believe it's not written recently? And it was written in 1962, over 50 years ago, by Rachel Carson, who's the author of the book Silent Spring, which is really she's the forefront of the environmental movement. And what's happened in the last 50 years? Well, it's actually gotten worse. There are about 80,000 chemicals on the market today, manufactured today, and we're exposed to, on an average, about 6,000 of them, and the kicker is that only a very small fraction have been tested for safety. Think about our health crisis right now. How many of you know of people who have diabetes?
Yes.
What about people who were diagnosed with cancer this year? So almost all of us, right? There are scientific studies that are proving that these chemicals are impacting infertility, and they're hormone disruptors. They're causing girls to go into puberty early. It's really disturbing. The autism rate alone, I mean, just in the past 10 years, autism has increased by 78%. So really, what is going on? These chemicals can make you feel sleepy and grumpy and itchy and sneezy. And how many of you ever felt like one of the 7 dwarfs, right? So, in my case, it started with a sharp pain in my shoulder. And I remember this, it was 11 years ago. I was in Maui in December 2002, enjoying the beautiful climate. And this pain came out of nowhere. And when I came back to this coast, I went to my chiropractor to see what was going on, and he suggested I get an MRI. And this is what was in my chest. Not a tennis ball, but it was a tumor. It was this big. Imagine having that inside you. And I just thought, how did this happen to me when I was doing everything right? I thought I was leading a healthy lifestyle. I ate well. I exercised, I watched my weight, I didn't smoke. I even had a meditation practice. So how could this happen to me? So I went to 3 top surgeons, and they all wanted to remove it. Now, they scanned it, and it was benign, but they said that this thing could turn cancerous at any moment. And so one wanted to cut me under my collarbone to get it out. The second one wanted to cut me under my armpit. And the third wanted to go in from the back and remove one of my ribs. Well, they couldn't agree on how to remove it, but they all agreed that it was risky surgery, that I could lose the feeling in my hand permanently. And so I just thought, I need to just stop for a moment and just figure this out. And I got quiet. I took a breath, and I just asked for guidance. And what came to me was simplify. So I thought, okay, what can I simplify? What is the easiest thing to do? And it's the food that I was eating. We all eat 3 times a day. We have the most control over that. And so I looked at what I was eating. Even though I thought I was eating healthy, I was eating processed food. I was eating out a lot. We don't know what's in our restaurant food. And so I just decided to do something kind of radical and eat food without any product labels whatsoever. And I went on a juice cleanse. And you know what? In just 3 days, the pain that I was in, which was really considerable, started going away. And that was remarkable to me. And I just thought, wow, I'm onto something here. What else can I simplify? And so I took a look at what I was putting on my skin, because our skin is not the barrier that we think it is. It allows in microscopic chemicals. And I looked at my deodorant, my shampoo, and I'm going to talk about some of this. There was a paragraph worth of ingredients on there. So I switched out to all natural. And then I decided to look at what I was surrounding myself with. Our household cleaner is really toxic, and I'm going to share that with you in a little bit too. Switched out to all natural, got a natural mattress, and 6 months, it took me 6 months, the pain went away, and 6 months later, I had this tumor scanned, and it had disappeared. It disappeared. It was life-changing for me. It was just such a life-changing moment to realize that our bodies are self-healing organisms. If we get out of the way and feed them natural products and put natural products on our skin and clean with natural products, just become as natural as possible. So I am going to share with you some things on this table. And my promise is that I'm going to, by the time you leave here today, that you're going to really come away with feeling empowered and confident in choosing natural, safe products, even though some of the information I'm going to tell you is a little bit scary. So let's talk about bread for a minute, because this is, so one of the things I love to do is I just go into the stores and buy stuff that the average person is buying. And so what do you think the shelf life of a loaf of bread should be? Should be.
A week?
A week. 3-4 days, right? Okay, so I have to tell you, I wrote it down. I wrote down that this was purchased February 21st, 2013. I bought these 2 loaves of bread. It is now November 2013. And it is a squishy, and as the day I bought it, it's not been in my refrigerator or my freezer. It's been sitting out in my pantry. There's no mold on it. So this contains something that you need to pay attention to, calcium propionate, which is a preservative. And when they feed it to laboratory animals, it causes them to have ADHD behavior. So, it sounds funny, but it's really kind of sad. And so, an easy switch would be to buy bread that doesn't have preservatives in it. And so maybe you have to freeze it or refrigerate it. It will save your health. Okay, then I went to the store, and there's this blueberry muffin mix, and it says right on the label, right on the front cover, it says artificially flavored with imitation blueberries. And I thought, what? What could be in here that can make artificial blueberries? Do you have any thoughts? What?
Raisins.
Raisins? That would be a healthy choice, right? Okay, so I'm going to tell you, hydrogenated lard, partially hydrogenated lard, hydrogenated soybean and cottonseed oil. So first of all, when you hydrogenate an oil, it creates trans fats, and it causes heart disease. So we're feeding this to our children. I had given a talk, and this woman said, I just made that for my kids. she didn't notice it because it was in small print. She didn't notice it was artificial blueberries. How hard would it be to just throw in some natural blueberries or some raisins? This also has 3 artificial colors. So I want to just tell you about artificial colors. They're banned in Europe, but they're sold here in America. So why are they banned in Europe? Because they've done studies on artificial colors, and normal children who were given these colors had temper tantrums, anger issues. So, we might be unsuspectingly just feeding ourselves and our kids the stuff that really shouldn't be. Here's a Fruity Pebbles. This is gluten-free, so people are looking for a gluten-free option. They think it's healthy, but this is also made with hydrogenated oil, which I found shocking. The children are given this hydrogenated oil, and it's got 4 colors in it. The other thing this has in it is 9 grams of sugar in a serving. So 9 grams of sugar is a tablespoon. Okay, 3/4 of a cup is a serving. I don't know about you, most people pour in a big bowl. They're not just eating a 3/4 of a cup, which is about this much. So, you're getting pretty, a big dose of stuff in here. And so then I thought, okay, well, this one looks healthy. Fiber 1, it's got 60 calories per serving, got a lot of fiber, but it has 0 sugar. So I thought, well, what are they sweetening it with? Aspartame. So aspartame is found in Equal. This is the same thing. Now, in case you didn't know, aspartame, they're saying can be a neurotoxin. It can really mess up with your brain. And so one of my clients, I remember she got a packet of Nestle's hot cocoa mix in the mail, but it was a low-calorie one, and she drank it, and she had a dizzy spell. Didn't really think anything of it, and the next day she had another cup. After that, she had another dizzy spell, and so she looked at the thing and she saw aspartame, so she sort of started to connect the dots. And then about a week later, she went to a restaurant and she ordered a slice of pecan pie. And when she got up from the table, she had another dizzy spell. And so she asked the chef, "Excuse me, what did you sweeten your pecan pie with?" And he said, "Oh, Equal." So, she was smart. She was able to connect the dots because other people have dizzy spells, and then what happens? They go get anti-dizzy medication from their doctors, when in actuality, the simple thing is just start reading the labels and avoid things like aspartame. This Crystal Light contains also aspartame, and it's got 2 colors in it. So do you drink Crystal Light?
No, I'm just thinking of people eating lunch. It's probably
Oh my goodness. So let's see, what else can I talk about here? Let's talk about here, Dr. Pepper. This is Diet Dr. Pepper. Also, this has aspartame in it. I just find it alarming. My teenage daughter had this in her backpack, and I said, rather even that you had sugar rather than just this. And then there's, to pay attention to, like, for example, this vitamin water. They have the servings, there's 2.5 servings in this container. So if you're drinking it thinking this is kind of healthy for you, you're getting the equivalent of a can of Coca-Cola in terms of sugar. So this has 13 grams of sugar per serving, but this is 2.5 servings, so you multiply that, you're getting 39 grams of sugar. That's astonishing. And you think it's healthy because it's vitamin. And he's shocked. I see shock in the audience. And then this one, popcorn. This also has.
Oh God, this looks bad.
It looks bad. Right? Partially hydrogenated.
What's the story?
It's got the partially hydrogenated vegetable oil in it. So we make our own popcorn at home. So easy. I use coconut oil in a pot and heat it up, and delicious. So. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Because this is first what I've talked about, what goes in us.
Any calories? What about?
Right. Those are okay. You just have to see what the artificial is it artificially sweetened, and is it artificially colored? So that's what you want to pay attention to. But the electrolytes are great. And yes, doctors are not trained in nutrition. They get like in a couple of hours in their years of study, and so they don't know about this for the most part. People like Dr. Oz are now starting to talk about it, and But it is kind of controversial, but I really think, we really need to pay attention to this because this can really impact your health. And I think the number one thing to think about as a takeaway on the food thing is to really try to avoid processed foods because that's where you're going to get all the sugar, the coloring, the additives, the flavorings, and also the genetically modified foods. If you're concerned about that, probably 80 to 90% of our soy and cotton too, but soy and corn are genetically modified. And I know there's pediatricians that are taking these kids who, there's a big influx of problems with their bellies now. They're getting diarrhea and constipation, all this. When they take them off the GM foods, they heal, their gut heals. So, and it's all that stuff is sneaked into these breakfast bars and like here, this kashi, for example, it has no high fructose corn syrup, which is great because, they figured out the buzzwords because they know people like, oh, I don't want to eat high fructose corn syrup, so that makes it look like it's healthy, but this has GM soy in it. It's Roundup Ready. So anyway, something to pay attention to. Yes? Well, no, Splenda is highly, highly processed, and it can be a migraine trigger. And Sweet and Low I'm going to talk about in a second, and then stevia is great. It's made from a plant. So you need to look for...
And agave as well is good.
Agave is good, yeah. And honey, all those natural sweeteners are great. Did you have a question?
How do you feel about meat?
About what? Meat. Oh, well, I eat meat. I only eat meat that's pasture-raised, organically grown, that sort of thing, because the beef industry notoriously injects their cattle with growth hormones and antibiotics and all that. So if you're going to eat meat, I can't tell you one way or another, but it works for my body. But I make sure that my chicken also is pasture-raised. I get a little bit neurotic when I go into a restaurant. It's like, where's your meat from? And is your wine biodynamic? And what kind of oil are you using on your salad? And, you can go a little nuts. But I kind of go with the 80-20 rule. Like 80% of the time, I feel like I try to do my best. Okay, so plastic bottles. The number one, like these Crystal Geyser bottles, apparently don't leach any kind of harmful, they say. I don't know for sure, but they say that they're pretty safe, but they're meant for a single use. A lot of people reuse them, and that could be a problem because you're also getting bacteria that you can reinfect yourself with bacteria. The hard plastic bottles contains BPA. Now, there's been this whole controversy about it, and you'll see a lot of bottles that say BPA free. However, they're using BPS now. So it's an untested chemical. So you think it might be safe, but so the safest thing, what I do is I use a glass water bottle and I fill up. So as long as we're talking about water, we should talk about our tap water. The Associated Press did a study on our tap water in America and discovered that there's pharmaceutical drugs in significant quantities in our tap water. So antidepressants, birth control pills, hormones, Viagra, all that stuff, we're drinking all that. So I recommend getting a filter on your home tap and then using either a glass or a metal bottle, and then you should be good to go. Okay, so I'm going to move on to what goes on us. We're talking a little bit about the Sweet and Low, which is saccharin. So I went into my store and I was looking at toothpaste, and every single toothpaste I could find, except a natural one like Tom's, for example, contains saccharin. Saccharin is an artificial sweetener. So they've done studies on laboratory animals, and they've discovered that when you give these animals saccharin, they develop bladder cancer. So I'm not saying that you brush your teeth. Like I remember my daughter had a sleepover with this girl, and the girl goes, oh, well, what kind of toothpaste do you use? Because she had a natural toothpaste. And then my daughter says, what are you using? Crest? Don't you know that could kill you? So I go running in there. No, your toothpaste is not going to kill you. But my message is to really, it takes time. Look, I was 50 when I got my tumor. So this is over time. And what the good news is that we have so many great products that are healthy now that are on the market that we didn't have before. So like I use Coral White. I love this toothpaste. It's made from sea coral. And then this one, I like this EcoDent. It's just baking soda toothpaste. It's fantastic. It works just the same, and you're not getting exposed to the saccharin. And then another toothpaste I just wanted to share with you, Colgate Total. It has triclosan in it, which is an antibacterial, and it's also a pesticide. So, for example, like this Dial antibacterial soap, the number one ingredient on here is triclosan. So we don't need to use triclosan. Bottom line, all the doctors are saying that the best way to wash your hands is to use regular soap and water. And when you're using this, you can develop sort of antibiotic resistance. So if you do need an antibiotic, it could be really dangerous for you to use this stuff. And especially when you're putting it in your mouth, because let's say if your gums are bleeding, or it's going under your tongue into your bloodstream. So you want to just choose the most natural, safest product. So let's see, what other goodies do I have? Yeah, I mean, you can use these sanitizing gels. They're great. I like EO or Clean Well. These are all natural, made with essential oils. And yeah, let me just talk to you about labeling for a minute. So I always tell people to look for the fewest amount of ingredients on a label. So this bottle of Listerine looked great. It only has 4 ingredients: eucalyptus, thyme, menthol. What could be so bad? And then there's this little, in the fine print, it says peel here. And so then when you peel this back, this is where all your other stuff comes in. So it's got 26.9% alcohol. And, it's a little crazy, right? So alcohol actually dries out your mouth and can maybe, give you more cavities. They want you to just keep using it. And also they've done studies on people who rinse their mouth with alcohol-based products, and it can give you mouth cancer. So, it's just better to go with something natural. I mean, my favorite thing now is this healthy gum drops from Living Libations, and I put some on a toothbrush. It's just essential oils, and it's just fantastic. And I don't even use the sudsy thing. You just have to get used to not having the suds in your mouth, but I love it. And so, let's see, deodorant. Looking at this one, this band roll-on, it only had 1 ingredient on there, so that surprised me. And it's aluminum. Now they're linking aluminum to Alzheimer's, and so that's not really great. But I thought, well, how could this only have 1 ingredient? And there's no peel here label. But so I'm standing there in Walgreens, kind of picking away at this thing, and then when you pull it back, there are all your other, a paragraph worth of preservatives, additives, fragrance. So let me talk to you a little bit about fragrance. The word fragrance on a label can mean up to 100 different synthetic ingredients. It's the manufacturer's catchphrase that they can just say fragrance. They don't have to say what's in there. So, the thing is that with all of this stuff, our bodies, it's like taking in so much. It's the food, it's the chemicals in the bread and the cereal and the toothpaste, and then the skincare and the deodorant. It creates this burden. And some of the chemicals that were tested were only tested alone. They weren't tested in relation to the others, to the rest. So, it creates this body burden on us. And I'm convinced that that's how I got rid of this tumor, by clearing out my body, not having these chemicals on there, not exposing myself to it, and then my body healed. And that's what I believe, that everybody, can feel better if they just switch to natural things. So this is produced in Canada, and so it says drug facts, which I thought that was fascinating, because it is a drug. These are drugs. That's the thing. We're not really getting the picture. These chemicals are drugs. They interact like drugs. And this one, again, peel back and you see all the stuff in here. Now Tom's, for example, I thought, well, this is a kind of, should be safe and natural, but the number one ingredient on the stick deodorant is propylene glycol. Does anyone know where that comes from? Antifreeze. So, and it's a penetration enhancer, they call it. So when you put it on, they want all the stuff to go deeper into your skin. So think about that. You know, maybe you're shaving under your armpits, and then you put this on, and you know, you wonder why is there so much disease and breast cancer? I mean, this could partially be responsible for that. What I use is baking soda. I like this one. This pure Bob's of Red Mill baking soda, and I put it in my salt shaker, and I just sprinkle it in my hand, and it works 100%. It's amazing. I mean, Grandma was right, right? I have a client in Southern California, and she's a yoga instructor. She does Ashtanga yoga, and she sweats a lot, and she said, oh, I can't do that. I'm always reapplying my deodorant. I said, well, just try it, okay? And she did, and she's a believer now, and she's so happy. So it's really cool. And then, you know, another thing to be aware of are these aerosols, because they contain hydrofluorocarbons, and they eat away at the ozone layer. So this one contains that. It contains fragrance, which we talked about, propylene glycol, which we talked about, and triclosan. It's got like punch, you know, a big punch in here. It seems so innocuous. I mean, I grew up with Right Guard and Secret and all this stuff, so just something to be aware of. Let's see. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about makeup. I know that that's an issue for people and curious about it. And so, you know, some of the mascara contains mercury in it, for example. We don't want that in our eyes. Some lipsticks contain lead, which we don't want. So, you know, I love like this one company called Peacekeeper Cosmetics. They make a wonderful lipstick and lip balms, and they have a great theory or philosophy where they give back their proceeds to urgent women's issues, and so that's great. And I like Jane Iredale, and let's see, this is Aveda, which I think is pretty clean as well. So, you know, like chapstick contains parabens, and that surprised me. And parabens are found a lot in our makeups and our personal care products, and those are preservatives. They're antimicrobial preservatives. And so they've done studies, and they found parabens in breast cancer tumors. So, you know, it's so simple these days to find great natural products. Well, they can be an irritant. You know, I don't think they're necessarily cancer-causing, but they can be an irritant. And, you know, there's a great website called, let's see, Skin Deep. And it's part of the Environmental Working Group. And you can go and look at your products and see what you're using and then how it stacks up. Another great company, nonprofit, is the Center for Environmental Health, and they have some great suggestions as well. It does allow in the microscopic chemicals, so things like nanoparticles you have to really pay attention to, because, you know, nanotechnology was designed initially to, you know, in the medical arena to allow certain drugs and things to help cancer patients and like that. But now they've just decided to put it in our makeup and in our moisturizer and in our sunscreen, for example. So, you know, here's like Jergens has an ultra healing moisturizer, and you think that it's healthy because it says healing. I want something to heal my skin. Well, it's got 2 parabens in it and fragrance, and then it's got 10 unpronounceable chemicals, you know, in here. So you can use a simple thing like coconut oil on your skin as a great moisturizer. There's jojoba oil. I have a whole bunch. I have recipes in my book, you know, to tell you how to make some easy stuff like that. I think a great thing to do is to wear a hat if you're sensitive. I like to get at least a half an hour of sun on my body if I can because of the vitamin D, because vitamin D is so critical for health. But just make sure you're looking for a natural sunscreen if you do decide to use it, something that's non-toxic. And again, you can go to the EWG site and look that up. And I also have a recipe in my book for a natural sunscreen, actually, made with vitamin C. So it doesn't act as a barrier, but it actually goes into the skin and protects you from burning. And I've used it, in Hawaii, and I've used it on my little daughter, and it works great. Okay, so let's go on to what surrounds us. And well, let's talk about household cleaners. So this is Windex. It says it kills 99.9% of bacteria. And then it's got active ingredients, which is only 0.18%. And then there's the inactive ingredient is 99.82. What does that mean, inactive ingredient? Does anyone have an idea? They're not telling us what's in here, basically. They don't have to by law. I know that there are some senators who are trying to work on getting these manufacturers to tell us what's in here, but basically 99% of the stuff, we have no idea. But I do have an idea on the back. It says, precautionary statement, hazards to humans and domestic animals. So why would anybody want to use this in their home to clean if it's hazardous? It makes no sense. And one of my clients, he said to me, oh, well, we use this, but it's just vinegar, because it says vinegar on the bottom. He thought this was just vinegar. And it's like, no, this is not just vinegar. This is keep out of reach of children and pets, right on the back. This is not just vinegar. So, but what I do use, and which is really great, is vinegar and hydrogen peroxide to clean with. I put just plain old hydrogen peroxide, which costs like $1 a bottle, and white vinegar. And then I spray down my countertops, my wooden countertops, whatever, alternate, and it kills 99.9% of E. coli, salmonella, bacteria, everything that this Windex does. And it's pennies, and it's non-toxic. You don't have to worry about your pets or your children. So how great is that? And if you don't like the smell of vinegar, try some essential oil. I like this. This is like lavender from Mountain Rose, and just make sure it's 100% essential oil. Look, because sometimes if it'll say a product might say made with essential oil. So those two words, made with, that could mean there's only one drop, let's say, of essential oil in there. So you really want to just pay attention, and that goes for everything. For bread. This one says 100% whole wheat. Some breads will say made with 100%, or it'll say made with whole wheat, and that can mean just a small percentage. So let's see. And then candles, scented candles. One of my clients had a chronic cough, and she was, for 2 years, she was on cough medicine, cough suppressant. The doctors didn't know what was going on. So she said to me, when I go to a hotel, it's so funny, I don't cough. And I just thought, oh, okay, well, there's something in your house. And I walked into her bedroom, and it's like already like this. And she had these scented candles everywhere. And she used scented hair products. And I said, look, you got to get rid of this stuff. And we got rid of it, and her cough went away. So then you tell your doctor, right? But this too, this also has the Peel Here label, and it has lots of information about it and additives and the smell. I can smell this without even ever opening it. I can smell this. So what I like to do is I go to the farmer's market, and I love to buy just beeswax candles with natural cotton wicks. Because if you've seen those wicks that have metal in there, so they make the candle burn longer. But you know what that metal is? It's lead. It's lead, right? So we're breathing that in. So if you have a home with lots of these candles, if you look on the ceiling, I've seen like soot up there. It's getting in our lungs. So that's not a good thing. And let's see, room spray. I love to just use just a regular. This is an organic hydrosol of rose, and this is just lovely. Instead of using, those air fresheners, they've done studies with people who use air fresheners in the home, and the children have upper respiratory problems. Let's see. Okay, and then I guess lastly, I wanted to just talk about the electromagnetic fields. And just briefly, I mean, we are being bombarded with these fields that you can't see them, but if we could, I saw a documentary once, it's like we're living with this mesh in front of us. So I really recommend that you unplug your Wi-Fi at night when you go to sleep, because when you're sleeping, you really want to rejuvenate, and that's the best time to do it. And if you're sensitive to these things, the Wi-Fi in particular, you know, if you shut it off, it would be great. Take your electronics out of your bedroom altogether. That would be the best thing to do. Now, also any sort of unit, like for example, one of my clients, her son had a headache. He had headaches for 2 years, and I went into his bedroom, and he had a giant air purifier right next to his headboard. So I said, why are you doing, you know, why do you have this here? And she says, well, he's allergic. But I used this meter that I have, this Gauss meter, and I measured, and the field coming off of this thing was enormous. And I just moved it 10 feet away because it drops off very quickly. And his headache, the next morning, the mom called me up and said, his headache is gone. Do you think I gave him a brain tumor? I'm just so worried, you know. And it's like, no, but I mean, this is something that you just need to pay attention to. Or there was the home I went into where the baby wasn't sleeping and the crib was up against a wall. And I said, what's on the other side of the wall? And there was a giant refrigerator there that was giving off a huge field. So we moved the crib across the way, and the baby slept really great after that. So I know that some of this information may seem overwhelming, or that you're not going to know where to go from here. And I found myself in 1987 halfway up a 100-foot cliff in Joshua Tree National Monument. I was on an Outward Bound exhibition, and you know, I really thought, I was so happy because I got halfway up and I really wanted to come down. And you know, I'm an ex-New Yorker, and going up that high, I mean, I've only been up elevators, you know, to high-rise buildings, but so I really wanted to come down. I said, you know, and the guy who was down below with the ropes belaying me, he said, look, just pull yourself up 3 inches, you know, stand on your tiptoes, and you'll see a whole new set of possibilities may open up to you. And I thought, wow, that's so profound, you know, being on this cliff and hearing this. And so I did. I stood on my tiptoes, and I saw another handhold and foothold, and I got up to the top. And I was just ecstatic about it. And I thought, I'm going to remember this the rest of my life. And so I just wanted to share that with you, that if you're feeling a little overwhelmed or not knowing where to go with this, you know, just what are your three inches for you? You know, maybe it's just changing your bread, or your lipstick, or your household cleaner. You know, pick one thing that you can do that you feel that you'll have an impact, and you'll see that over time you'll be healthier and happier and greener, and it'll be great. And you know, look, we're all in this together, so let's work together. And I'm here to support you if you need coaching. I do in-home coaching, and I do some consulting. I can do things by Skype even. So let me know if you need my help, and I'm here to do that for you. Thank you. Yeah, and are there any more questions? It's on Amazon, and also on my website, bethgreer.com. You can go there, and you can get, I have a free assessment for people who want to find out how you might be unwittingly being exposed to these chemical toxins. You can fill that out, and you'll be in the know. You'll know what to avoid. Well, there are instruments that you can purchase, and one of them is called a Gauss meter. One of them is an RF meter. It measures the fields from computers and Wi-Fi. And the third one, you actually need 3, unfortunately, but is a dirty electricity meter that called a Stetzer meter. And I have information about those on my website as well. farmers markets are really a great resource. You know, I like to go at like just a quarter to one. If the farmers market's from 8 to 1, I get there like 15 minutes before. They're giving away bags of broccoli for $1. You know, it's fantastic. They have something called CSA, Community Supported Agriculture, and they deliver boxes to your home. They may even have it here at Google where you can share in those things. Plant a garden for yourself. You know, yes, you know, eating meat that is pasture raised, but maybe eat less of it. But I also think that you're going to save money in the long run with no, you know, healthcare costs. I don't see doctors anymore. You know, how expensive would that surgery have been for me, and then the rehabilitation and the painkillers and all that. You know, so, and I really think you can't buy health like this. You know, to feel so good. I mean, I'm 61 right now, and I feel like so much better and more energetic and younger than I did 10, 20 years ago. So, and I know it's the food. You know, people ask me, what do you put on your skin? It's not what I put, it's what I'm not putting on my skin that makes it glow. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.